not supposed to be in that one, but we'll start again. It is time to talk a little bit about just how much we're just going to, oh, no, I'm just still having trouble. That's okay. Can't, nope, stop that. There it is. Okay, here we go. Before we run all the important and fun stuff, let's just go over what we're going to talk about today while everybody's still joining us. Niceville's 31-30 overtime playoff loss. South Walton crushes Freeport. Choctaw wallops Booker T. And Baker beats Liberty County 35-0. Finally, Walton did lose to Bowles. We've got a lot to talk about in this Monday morning recap of playoff football here in the Panhandle. So let's go ahead and get started. After some minor technical difficulties, we are live on your social media of choice. I am Christopher Saul. He is Colin Bester. And we are going over what happened this weekend in playoff football here in high school in the Western Panhandle. Colin, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. We had a lot of exciting playoff football action over the weekend. The playoff field in Okaloosa and Walton County got a little bit smaller, but there's some still exciting games coming up this Friday.
Yeah, so let's just start off with Niceville. Niceville took a hard loss to a Ponte Vedra team that they beat in overtime last year. This year, losing to Ponte Vedra, the number one seed overall in their region, by a single point in overtime. Looked just like last year to me. I mean, watching this game, a game that ended 21-20 last year with Justice Donahue getting an interception to end it all. It was a tough, hard-fought game, but I thought the Niceville team played its heart out, played well, and just came up a little bit short. It was, I think, a little bit of a talent deficit at the end of the day. But they executed pretty well. They played pretty good football. It's just this Ponte Vedra team, I think, was able to muscle it out. I think that Ponte Vedra definitely deserved to be the number one seed, but I think it proved that putting Niceville as the number 8 seed was kind of crazy.
Yeah, I think Niceville should have been seeded a lot higher, and they came out to play. I was watching the broadcast on the sideline during the Choctaw game. I know you were at South Walton watching with Heath. And to see the amount of people from Niceville that actually traveled to Ponte Vedra for that game was actually a very nice sight to see. So it was nice for them to have some feel of supporters over there in Jacksonville, but to come down to a blocked point after try in the first round overtime is a heartbreaking loss for the Niceville Eagles. But I think not a bad season, I don't think. I mean, going 6-5 is probably not what people expected out of this Niceville Eagle team. You expect greatness. You expect, 8-2 seasons, 7-3 seasons, stuff along that. You expect deep playoff runs when you're at Niceville. But I think the future is very bright for this Niceville Eagle team, especially with Deegan McCoy getting another offseason as being QB1. And we know how Jacoby Gilliard, he will continue to improve going into his sophomore season, which I can't believe that how good he is as a freshman right now. But there's a lot to look forward to. Outside of District 1-5A, Milton also fell to Beachside 23-7. A little bit of a closer score than I expected. I kind of didn't think Milton had the offensive prowess to actually score a point during this game. I know Beachside is I would say probably the best team to go against in round one, but certainly Milton on the road, keeping them to 23 points is good. But for the local area, for District 1-5A, Mosley is the only one who remains, and they will face Mainland, who blew out Middleburg in round one. So that should be a very exciting game.
And you'll notice on these brackets, two things. You'll notice on these brackets that the top four seeded teams are all the teams that advanced out of most of these games, with the exception of, I think, the 4 or the 5 was a 4A bracket maybe.
Yeah, the 4A and the 3A bracket too.
So you got out. But other thing is Ponte Vedra lost to Beachside earlier this year, so that's still going to be a pretty good game. All said, though, I guess it's how the bracketiers drew it up. 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds all advancing over there So it's all Jacksonville teams with the exception of Mosley, who will now face Mainland in the second round. So that's pretty much it for Niceville this year. I think Coach Richard Morgan, it started off kind of rough for him the first 2 months of the season. A lot of people speculating, talking, like, oh man, this is a tough look, but made the playoffs for the 25th year in a row. Niceville did put up a valiant effort against a very good Ponte Vedra team. Nearly came away with it, kept it close the whole game. It was a dogfight the whole game. And I was sitting there at the South Walton game. We're getting our video and stuff, and he's kind of keeping me up to date. And we had people coming up to us like, hey, you guys are watching the Niceville game right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
guys, we're at a different football game. But, that in their defense, the Freeport South Walton game, which we'll talk about here in a minute, absolutely got out of hand. So I can imagine people wanting to go ahead and watch a different game because it was a nasty blowout for the Freeport Bulldogs. So let's move into that. Showing you the bracket real quick, and then we'll go into highlights and then show you the bracket again. Bowls moving ahead of Walton, crushing them over there in Jacksonville. FSUHS is moving up as well, as is South Walton and Catholic. Let's take a look at these highlights. The hope for Freeport the whole time through this game did not show up to play. As a matter of fact, at the beginning of the third quarter, he began to just stand on the sidelines without a helmet. So his night was over. Didn't look like he was injured. I could be wrong, though. Take out of the game. But he got this catch, and that was pretty much all we saw from Julius Miles for the evening. Dylan Luthane got a couple of decent runs, but ultimately the South Walton Seahawk defense absolutely shut this thing down. There's Connor Rooney, one of our candidates for Defensive Player of the Year, swatting that ball away from Julius Miles. J.D. Brown handing off over to Max Baker. Max Baker had 3 touchdowns in this game. We're going to show you all those here. I mean, the kid can move. He can scoot, all right? It was awesome to watch these guys play, but essentially this game went the same way the regular season game went. Freeport's offense didn't get started, and Freeport's defense, is kind of played the way they've played all year. No secondary action really to speak of. And you can see they just didn't – the offensive line wasn't able to hold them, man.
Yeah, I think one of the most exciting things that you and I were texting out of this game is, A, how many people actually came up to you and Heath saying, hey, we enjoy your football coverage. And then we got to meet the biggest Freeport fan in the world.
Yes, the Red Cycle.
On Friday and learning out. He's actually a pretty good guy, pretty good school resource officer for the Freeport Bulldogs. So, honestly, I think for South Walton, this was a great turnaround for them. Mind you, they were like 2-8 last year.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're 7-8-3, 8-2 right now, knocking on the door of a second round playoff game against Pensacola Catholic. And to show you how good J.D. Brown was, he went 11 for 15, 283, 2 touchdowns on Friday night. Team as a whole, South Walton had 139 yards receiving, and Max Breaker 4 catches, 183, 3 touchdowns. So obviously it was a pretty much an offensive. Everyone was firing on all cylinders for South Walton. Now they're facing a Pensacola Catholic team. They lost by 2 scores in a couple weeks ago, 9 points, and they're going on the road again to Pensacola Catholic, which we will be there. I will be there this Friday night at 7:30. It's actually the last scheduled game to kick off in the Panhandle region in round 2. So those highlights will be coming to you a little bit later than you guys usually expect. So my apologies for that. But that is probably going to be the most exciting game in this area next week. I'm 2 district rivals going at it in the second round of playoffs. Like that is what you want as a football fan.
Yeah, and I'd love to tell you that I think that Choctaw, that game's going to be a closer game, but I've not been convinced of it yet. I'm not convinced of the Baker game being a close game, but I do know for a fact that the South Walton Catholic game is going to be an absolute knife fight, and I wish I could be there for that one. I have yet to see Catholic play this year. I feel I've been robbed personally of that experience. It's what is it? what is the name of that quarterback that's over there right now?
Jalen Brown. He's the best quarterback we really don't talk about that often. And he's only getting better and better and better each and every single week. And to think that Catholic just came off a 48-0 blowout win over Bozeman, another district, they were the 2-2A district winner. I think this game's going to be a lot closer. I mean, we'll break it down Friday on Final Approach Game Day, brought to you by our friends at Final Approach Irrigation, Hunter Brock, for all your irrigation needs. But, this 2A bracket, I mean, the same thing. All top 4 seeds advance to the second round of the playoffs. And I guess out of everyone who was there, and we all applauded when the brackets came out that everyone in 1-2A made the playoffs. And I think they all deserve the spot. I mean, Walton probably at the 8th seed, probably, I know their defense was really good. They beat a McClay team 63-32. McClay advanced in their own bracket as well. But for Walton, that's such a great defense, and most of those guys, I believe, will return in 2026, and the offense gets a little better under the helm of quarterback Witten West, who I believe also returns next year. So I think that Walton team may be poised to surprise a lot of people next year, and I wouldn't shock me to see them a little ranked higher in the 2A bracket next year.
Yeah, I agree. And then the last thing I'll say about this bracket is that got note that J.D. Brown, quarterback over at South Walton, just got offered by Tulane. Great school in New Orleans. So if for nothing, and I just want to throw this is just my 2 cents, but if you get offered by Tulane's a fantastic institution. And if they're offering you free tuition, my guy, I'm just saying that business school, rocking. But if SMU wants to talk to him, that never hurt anybody. Just saying. Anyway, moving on to the game that you attended last week. Let's bring up those Choctaw highlights, my man. You can see from the score over there, 4A. And I guess we can come back to those in a minute. But the 4A bracket, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at this bracket for the first time and you're like, oh gosh, what thing stands out to you is that St. Augustine victory over Arnold, 70-21. We said it a couple weeks ago that we thought that Arnold was the biggest winner. We didn't think that Arnold deserved a spot in the playoffs, and they go into St. Augustine, and it was 63-14, I believe, at the half. So St. Augustine sort of backed down the throttle a little bit and was on cruise control from that point, but it was a running clock, so Arnold couldn't really do much. Pine Forest, it seemed like no one wanted to win District 1 4A anyway, so Pine Forest being a first-round exit didn't surprise me at all. I will say Columbia versus Rickards surprised me a little bit. Because at one point during the game when we were on the sidelines, Rickards was holding Columbia to a 7-0 point total. And I was surprised, but it seemed Columbia turned it on in the second half. And I'm sorry, there's an extra Choctaw logo. We just love Choctaw so much that we have to have their logo twice. But Choctaw sort of blew the brakes off of Booker T. Washington. And for the first half of that game, and I was talking with Coach Will, who's always on the sidelines, around any big game in Okaloosa County, you'll see him, and I'll see him tomorrow as the Lady Eagles take on Booker T. At Booker T for the Lady Eagles begin their season, and there's a graphic to find both the schedules for both the men's and men's and girls basketball on Facebook.com, midbaynews.com. You can find out week 1 schedules there, but to me, I thought Choctaw started slow, and this has been a story that has been developing over the course of the season, is that they get off to these very slow starts. And for whatever reason, I know Mario Lale, he was on street clothes on Friday night. There was a couple of other injuries impacting this Choctaw Indians defense that allowed Booker T to sort of stay in the game for a lot longer than you thought they would be. We'll play some of these highlights as we're talking over them. Thank you, Christopher. But to me, I seem like this Booker T team got off to a very slow start, and that concerns me. If you're a Choctaw fan, that should concern you, knowing that this Columbia team will probably get off to a better start than they did against Rickards. You can probably explain that Rickards being kept close as they played down to their level of competition instead of probably blowing the doors off like they should have from the get-go. But I mean, this team only had 250 or so yards of offense. Choctaw did throughout the entire game, and pretty much they all started in Booker T. Washington territory, so they didn't have to go very far to get a score. And there was 2 defensive scores on this day. We had a nice interception return by, I can't remember his name. I believe it was. Hold on, we have a roster here.
While you're talking about that, I'll just bring up this little stat that I did. I'm going to do some public math, so don't everybody get mad at me at once. But Choctaw had 250 yards of offense on the night. Not a great number, but I think it shows how good the defense is because they were able to score a total of 7 touchdowns. 2 of those were defensive touchdowns, right? So 250 divided by 5 for the 5 offensive touchdowns means that on average, Choctaw's offense only had to go 50 yards to score, which means it started on the midfield line, which means that Booker T. Washington's offense spent most of its time on its own half of the field, wishing that it were somewhere else.
And this is the return by Zion Legree. He's the junior defensive back. This was an 80-yard return. This put the game away. This ensured the running clock would start at that game. And unfortunately for Booker T, they finished 5-5 on the season. They only played 9 regular season games, sort of like Crestview did. Had an up and down season. Again, no one wanted to win District 1 4A, and Booker T was at one point the favorite to win that division in my mind. But for Choctaw, they're moving on to round 2. They get a home game next week against Columbia, and that's going to be a very interesting game for me because if Choctaw shows up like they did against Booker T, there's a real good shot that Columbia pulls away and takes that game. But I kind of don't expect that to happen. I think that Choctaw defense is a little too good at this point. I mean, to hold them to 6 points, and I think they got beat so bad that Booker T. Washington decided to put up stats for Friday's game. I mean, it's going to be a close game. I think those two, Columbia and Choctaw, are very good. But we'll have to see how these guys come back from injury. That will determine how that game goes out. If those guys are still out, if Mario Alloway is still not 100%, I mean, that game could be very close, and Columbia could actually win that game.
Yeah, and spare a thought for these celebrations from Choctaw. I don't think that we didn't put a Emerald Coast Elite for best touchdown celebrations, but boy howdy, we should have, because Choctaw looking mighty fly, as the kids say.
I mean, you can't do much. You can't pull a Hingle McCringleberry out there. You know what I mean?
McCringleberry.
You only get 2 pumps. Where do we go from here?
Oh, let's go rural. I do believe that Bluntstown smoked Jay. Jay just sneaking into the playoffs in the last week. It is what it is. But I think the real story is on the other side of the bracket. Baker, Liberty County. Baker destroying Liberty County in Okaloosa County this past weekend. They'll head over to play Chiefland later this year, or later this week, which is later this year in my defense. So maybe I was right. Chiefland, the 3 seed. So could be a tough game for Baker, who will be on the road. Their only chance to have another home game this year is if Williston beats Hawthorne over there on that side of the bracket. I guess, they could have the regional final of Madison County, which is a very good football team, beats Bluntstown. I think that's a pretty good matchup, that 1-9 matchup.
I mean, that's a Madison County team that took pace to the limit and lost by 1. So I think that's honestly probably one of the games of the week. But for Chiefland, if you're looking at them, they're 10-1 on this season. Their only loss was to Baker County in Florida, 14-0. But they've also blown out some people who are on this bracket, like Taylor County, 30-15. They blew out Sneads, 44-6. That was last week. They've also beat Williston in 2 overtimes, 36-35. So this is a very good team. This is probably Baker's toughest opponent they played all year. Unfortunately, Baker has to go to the Big Bend area of Florida, so that's going to be about a 4 or 5 hour drive for them. Can Baker get it done? Yes, I do. But that is going to be a very tough opponent for the Baker Gators. And I will say shout out to Justice Baldwin, who had a 150-yard day against Liberty County. I guess they sort of, they knew what the team was, so they kind of just turned the offense off halfway through the game. But 7 for 15, 142, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Unfortunately, Christian Wilkes and Wyatt Strait, this sort of double-headed monster at Baker that they've been having, only held to about 24 yards rushing. They had 123 on the day. Riley Renfro had 2 carries for 32 yards. Joseph Baldwin, 9 carries for 30 yards. Dawson Mitchell, sophomore, 1 carry for 35. But Riley Renfro was also held in check, which is surprising because he's one of the area's leading receivers. 2 catches, 36 yards, 1 touchdown. So The games are getting a lot tougher. If you look at the box score and compare that to that score, the box score does not match. But that Chiefland game is going to be a very big deal for the Baker Gators this Friday.
Yeah, and I think that this week is the week where we're going to start seeing much, much closer games. I think that we let too many teams into the playoffs, right? And the records or the games reflect that, with the exception of the Niceville Ponte Vedra game. Wow, that took a while for that to come back into the recall. So that was the only really close game that I saw this past week that gave me pause about my theory that there are too many teams in playoffs. But every other game, I mean, you look at these, there are no close games in this rural bracket. We go to 5A. We'll go look at 6A in a minute. You look at that, one close game in that bracket, or two close games. So 5A maybe disproving me just a hair. Looking at 2A, not really close for any of these. And 4A, yeah, not even close, right? So these are all blowouts. We've moved on. 6A bracket, though, let's take a look at that before we kind of punch on out of here. Buchholz, Oviedo, close game, but Oviedo, I think we agreed last week, was pretty underrated. With the exception of that, I mean, Pace, the defense turned it on against Evans just to keep them down. It wasn't a spectacular night for Pace. They're going to have to play Mandarin, who beat St. Augustine in the 4A bracket by a single point, crushed Crestview in this first round. Again, it's a 1-2-3-4, so we could have just started playoffs this week.
Yeah, and I'm trying to pull the box score up for this Mandarin game, and Crestview unfortunately doesn't have any stats, but Mandarin had their quarterback Knox Anus 3 for 6 for 13 yards, 312 yards on the ground for this Mandarin Orange team, who's been lighting it up. We have, I believe, Seth Foster, Shanquez Foster, who's actually one of the top running backs in the state. He had 16 carries, 136 yards, 3 touchdowns on the night for that Mandarin team. But that's a very interesting matchup. Pace is, I think, beatable in this bracket. I don't think Pace is going to go very far. I think they lose to Mandarin. I think that's just a tough matchup for anyone to go against. I mean, beating St. Augustine by 7 points is a pretty big deal, considering the juggernauts that St. Augustine have been for the past couple of years. But Pace didn't really, if you look at their box sheet, really didn't impress you that much. I mean, it was a very low-scoring game. I mean, rushing had the story for the Pace Patriots. That's what it's been all year. Mikael Williams and Tax Trickenberger, best name in high school football this year. But for Crestview, I think we have to talk about their season as a whole. It started off very slow. Overtime loss to Milton. They started their season 1-2. That one being the come from behind victory to Niceville, and then they had a couple weeks off. Then I think they lost to Pine Forest, but then they go on a 5-game win streak to the end of the year.
They decided to play football.
Yeah, and they really turned it on towards the end of the year, which I thought would have gave them some momentum going into this Mandarin game, thinking that they could actually. That defense would show up and that running game would show up, because that's the thing. Defense, running game, travel. That's sort of the old adage football that works about 90% of the time, and it just didn't happen. So for what Thomas Grant is building in Crestview, I think next year there'll be contenders. We'll have to see when that schedule comes out for 2026. But I mean, I think Crestview and Pace are sort of your teams at the top in the 6A bracket. So I think next year we'll be talking at this time next year, looking at a 6A bracket and seeing Crestview and Pace in that bracket as well. So for all you Bulldogs fans, nothing to be ashamed about this season. You had an excellent team. Just didn't get started the way your season wanted. I mean, if it was a Milton win, you guys would have been 7-2, and you probably would have hosted a playoff game. And that's just how the season goes, you know?
Yeah, I think Crestview and Pace are going to be pretty good teams next year. I think Crestview will improve more than Pace will. I think Pace might actually take a little bit of a step back with a lot of seniors graduating, especially on the offensive line. Crestview, though, is still a very young team, and they proved that they can beat anybody over the last couple of weeks. I think they beat a Niceville team that they were not more talented. I think they were more have more raw talent at Crestview than Niceville, but Niceville's talent has been they've had, frankly, the coaching, the play calling has been better at Niceville over the last couple of years. And so I think that they beat that Niceville team off of pure rage. And so I do like this Crestview team to get even better, especially if they're able to call more creative run stuff, more like a traditional, like your Navy, Army offense kind of look going into the future. If they're able to do more of that, I think that they'll really benefit. And I really look forward to watching Crestview next year.
And by the way, I pulled up the stat line for Pace because Mikael Williams has been awesome this year. 31 carries, 103 yards. Typically not the stat line that we see from Mikael Williams this year. But Tad Strickenberger, 3 carries, 87 yards, 216 yards of offense for the Pace Patriots. Rushing, Brooks Washington, their mobile quarterback as well, had 4 carries for 7 yards, and he went 5 for 6 for 63 yards, no touchdowns, as long as passes 23 yards. So, I mean, that Pace offense is only going to go as far as the offensive line will carry them. Mandarin's defense is probably, I think, has 20 sacks on the year. That's probably one of the best defensive front sevens in all of high school football in the state. So that's going to be a very tough task for the Pace Patriots to do. And as a Milton Panther fan, and them being the only school in Santa Rosa County still carrying the mantle, I kind of want Pace to go as far as they possibly can, but that Mandarin game is going to be tough for them to overcome.
Well, we'll end on a high note. That's because Rocky Bayou Christian School is the FHSAA state champion. 2 years in a row, the Rocky Bayou Knights have taken that title. And they took it over Glades Day down in West Palm Beach. They had to make I think it's an 8-hour drive. Heath and I looked it up. It's 8 hours and 1 minute. I didn't believe him.
He was right. He was spot on.
He was 1 minute off, which is pretty cool. So they went down there, took that win. They're back now as the SSAA state champions this year. So congratulations to the Rocky Bayou Knights on that title win.
Yeah, I was watching it online, and I was doing all the score updates for everybody. So if you guys want to know who works here on a weekend, it's me. But there was at times where I was watching this Rocky Bayou game, and I was like, there was one point where the quarterback took a sack, and he was trying. We've seen how athletic he has been. He's number 14 right there. He can really make speedy changes, and he was trying to get a pass down the field, and unfortunately for him, he got sacked. And I was like, man, this Rocky Bayou team had a lot of plays that were off big plays, like long yards, like longer than 40 yards. That was their offense pretty much. And I think to myself that this Rocky Bayou team probably could have won by 2 scores. It just didn't happen. But shout out to Rocky Bayou. This may be controversial, but Rocky Bayou seems to be the only school in Niceville bringing back state titles.
Oy vey.
Oy vey.
I have to live here, man. You know that, right? Like I have to see people at the grocery store.
Rocky Bayou's in Niceville. It counts. But, they went from 3A last year. They won a state title there. They went to 2A, won a state title. So shout out to the Rocky Bayou Christian Knights going back-to-back, bringing championship gold to Okaloosa County. I know there was some swim meet in Ocala over the weekend, and a couple of Okaloosa County students brought home some gold and bronze and silver. So we will be doing a graphic later today, shouting all those kids out because we care about all sports here at Mid-Bay News, and shout out to them. But shout out to Rocky Bayou, and shout out to I think a Crestview swimmer won gold in the state. So look at that. How about that? I know Niceville went. They got some team awards. I don't know how they do it, Christopher. They just give you the first 4 letters of the school, and you just have to guess who it is. But they put nice, so I guess that's Niceville. I don't know any other.
That's Niceburg. You haven't heard of Niceburg over there on the Space Coast?
No, haven't.
No. Well, congratulations to Niceburg. Once again, many champions, many happy returns. That's what we've got for today. Thanks again for joining us for this show. As always, put your spicy comments in the chat. We'll respond to them. Or if they're too spicy, maybe we'll go cry in our offices, whatever. But yeah, good to see you guys. Talk to you soon. See you on Friday for Final Approach to Game Day, brought to you by Final Approach Irrigation.